Well, hey, everybody. It's Heather. Having some technical issues with my microphone. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. All right. So, I'm going to turn my phone down so I can make sure I keep track of comments. All right. Hi, everybody. It's me. And it is Monday. I am so glad to be here with you guys. A couple of weeks ago, did my intro to this life hack on relationship series that I'm talking about. And today, we're going to talk about friends. Now, what's really important is you go back, if this is, you're listening on the podcast or on the live video, you're listening to this podcast and you did not hear the last one on family, please stop now and go back and listen to the one on family. Why? Because really that is the foundation of what we're building on here. Today we're talking about friends, and in a couple of weeks we're going to talk about romantic relationships, which are really often where we experience a lot of the grief and the pain and the hardship and the emotional charge that comes with difficulties, with challenging emotions, hard situations, feeling activated emotionally, having expectations or needs, a desire to feel connection, but you feel pain. So these are things that I often work through with clients, both in relationships as individuals in coaching and as an Imago relationship therapist. Now, these are all kind of inherent things that are part of relationships. Every relationship is impacted by how we learned in our earliest relationships. That's family. So that is why I want you to go back, even as much as I want you to listen to this right now, go back and listen to the podcast from 2 weeks ago on family, and then come back to this one, because that will inform you and give you a sense of where we're going today. Okay. Also, exciting stuff's coming with my course coming in January on Feel Good in 30 Days. That program is really going to be beneficial to giving you kind of a jump start on growing in self-awareness, personal development, and actually taking agency over your own life, taking agency over your own feel good. And now my computer's giving me all sorts of weird things. Okay, we're going to turn that off. Hopefully I stay on, computers, y'all. So that Feel Good in 30 Days is really going to jumpstart for you that sense of personal agency over your feel good. So much we feel like we rely on external situations to help us feel good. We use phrases like, that person made me feel bad, or this situation made me feel bad. Well, the reality is, we are responsible for our feelings. 1,000,000%. I am 1,000,000% responsible for what I'm feeling head to toe. Now, my partner, my husband, could say something that activates a wound in me, a part of me that has a wound, and it's like salt pouring on the wound. But it's not them causing it. It's the reaction of me, my response. So that's a big learning curve for our culture, for sure. Because our culture, I think, in the West, in the United States, relies on external validation quite a bit in order to feel good about ourselves. So I think being real about that and learning how to take agency and ownership over your feel good, you can feel good even when life doesn't. And I am testimony to that. I've been through a lot over the past, 6-7 years of personal growth therapy, and then subsequent divorce, then getting remarried rather quickly, joyfully, but rather quickly. A lot of changes, teenagers growing up, those teenagers having their own struggles from mental health as well as addiction. And I am a recovering codependent and have been in recovery from codependency for about 15 years. Well, close to 20 actually now. Wow. I just reminded myself of my age. So, I've been in journey in my evolution as a human being for a long time. And this is why I want to do what I do, is to show up and be of benefit to you. It's really what I'm all about. Okay, so with that being said, look for stuff coming out probably next month on when that course is going to drop. Always follow me on Instagram. Facebook I update as well, but Instagram is really where you can find out all the details. And also linked in this video down below on YouTube is a link to my link tree. So my link tree has all the links to all the things. Okay, so if you need to know where something is that I have, go to my link tree, and it will have this video. It will have the writing prompts that I talk about in this video, and it will also have a link to the podcast when it drops on Wednesday. So this video is a podcast that drops every Wednesday. So, every Wednesday that I record, during the week. So enough of that public service announcement. If you need to find anything about me, go to my link tree. It's linked in my Instagram profile at Real Life by Heather. It's also linked below, and it'll be linked in the podcast. All the things. All the places. All the places on the internet. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into content. Now, if you are listening to the podcast, I'm going to pause right now. And what I would love for you to do is stop walking your dog, or, if you're driving, keep driving, but pause the podcast until you can get to a safe place where you can then look at the notes and open up the link that has these slides that I'm going to be talking about. The reason why is because this video is very image-based today, and that's going to be really helpful to you as you're listening. So I know when I'm doing podcasts, I'm walking my dog, doing podcasts. Listening to podcasts, I'm doing my dog, I'm walking my dog, I'm driving my car, all the things. But know that what you're listening to is really informed by images that I'm using today in the live video. So you're going to want to reference those, but safely. Okay? All right. So let's go. So this is my life hack series, and we're talking about friends. Okay. So this is kind of cumulatively coming from the last episode, but we're going to compare relationships to looking for a house. So you want a good looking house with all the stuff, right? We want a nice house. And you might be willing to make some sacrifices as long as it has good bones. But if it has a cracked foundation, Houston, we have a problem. The risk would be too high. For a crack in the foundation is going to affect everything else in the house. Corps of Engineers comes along and says, hey, you got a crack in the foundation. You have to rebuild. You'd be like, I'm out, right? Okay, so the foundation for relationships is connection. And there's 3 things I'm going to be saying to you. We are born in connection. We are wounded in connection. And we can be healed in connection. Now, connection is a beautiful, powerful thing. We know it when we walk into a room. It is a vibe where we feel connected with someone. It is a warm, vibrant sense of safety, acceptance, belonging. You feel connected. We feel connected to communities. We feel connected to causes. We feel connected to people. That connection is the foundation of all relationships. It is non-negotiable. If there is no connection, there is no safety. If there is no safety, there is no relationship. And that is where wounds can happen, because some relationships we're born into, and we can't control that. And that's why you need to go listen to the previous podcast if you haven't. And then some we choose. Some relationships we choose, and that is friends. So humans are wired, we're wired for connection. We need it and we want it. We want connection. We want that warm, open, curious, beautiful place. We want it. And, not but, I don't like to use but, I like to use and because there are times when lots of things can be true at the same time. So anytime we use the word but, it's like negating what we just said. Humans need connection. Yes, we want it. We need it. And connection can feel really vulnerable, really raw, really open for the world to see. Whatever you get the vibe from the word vulnerable, it's like people can see my pain, people can see my stuff. And in our culture, we like to talk about being vulnerable, but we don't necessarily want to always practice it. Because why? Because it's vulnerable, right? Someone can hurt us. Someone could laugh at us or make fun of us or shame us. So there's a lot of things that come up with vulnerability that's based on experiences we've had in the past where we opened up and shared something and then we were laughed at or made fun of or shushed or told to get over it, right? And again, that comes from our earliest relationships with our earliest caretakers, parents, guardians, foster parents, whoever, that shaped how we do relationships. So connection can feel really vulnerable. Now, as we talk about friends, see, we're born into relationships when we talk about friends. Like, we are born into relationships, our families. We need physical touch, affection, and emotional presence. You know, we talk about a lot of mental health awareness, and that's wonderful, but I'm all about emotional health awareness because, you know, physical is emotional and emotional is physical. That's why we can say, like, when we get sick physically, we can feel feelings about that. And then when we are sad, it affects our body. We feel things in our gut. We feel nauseous. We feel stiff even. We feel tense. So physical is emotional and emotional is physical. So we're born into a relationship, and we as children are learning how to do physical and emotional support through simple things that as children, like cuddling, hugging, singing, playing, laughing, crying, skipping, all the things, right? This is a skill. It's like taking our first steps or riding a bike. We need present, engaged support. Now, for some parents and caretakers, the skill of healthy connection was not modeled. And this shows up the most in hard situations, ouchy, difficult situations. Because the bottom line is, when we are not practiced in witnessing and sitting with other people's pain, it activates our own pain. When we are not skilled, I'm going to say this again, when we are not practiced and skilled in sitting with another person's pain, their pain activates our pain, and then it is about us in that moment. So caretakers, parents who were unable to hold space, be a safe container for a child's pain, see this child's pain or emotional discomfort as their own. It feels like too much, feels like salt in a wound. It's hard. So our first friends are our family, right? That's really, as children, the friends we had were our family, right? So family is our first lesson on how relationships work or don't work. And bottom line is how to get what we need to feel connection. You see, all humans have needs. And yet in our culture, we feel like needs is needy, or that's a needy person. Totally hogwash. We all have needs. It's just some of us weren't taught how to ask for them. And so we do it in different ways, right? We act out. There's different ways that we can demand what we need in order to feel connection. But often when we're demanding for need, it's not connection because it's the actual opposite of connection. So connection is not a long, but an in-depth thing that it's not easily defined because it's something that is experienced. Um, but we know when we're in it, we know. And we know when we're disconnected. Um, so the beauty is learning how to pay attention to ourselves when we are activated. We're going to get to that. All right, here's the relationship circle. Now, this is why I wanted those who are listening to the podcast to really find the files, go into the podcast notes, and find these images, because it's a concentric circle. So a concentric circle is circles nested in one another, right? And at the center of the relationship circle is you or me, right? The next concentric circle is immediate family, my family. The next concentric circle is close friends and relatives. And then the next one is people I see regularly. The second to last one is people paid to help me. Professionals, doctors, therapists, those things. And then the last circle is the rest of the world. Like all those people, all the billion people that are out there living their life, right? So it's important to see this because it helps us understand that our relationships, the impact of our relationships and our connection to people. So today we're going to focus on really 3 areas, okay? We're going to focus on me, immediate family, which we talked about last week. And we're going to focus on the close friends and relatives and people I see regularly. Now, the top of the circle, you see the concentric circles. Below, I added some information to kind of give context. So, do you see that intimate circle? It's a half circle. And it's covering the section of me, immediate family, close friends, and relatives. This is an intimate core of you, of your relationships. These are your people that you share confidences in. It is an incredibly high level of trust. And because of that, it is also where we can experience the most pain and grief and hardship. And this is often where relationships really activate us, when we have pain that is not, or wounds that we are not conscious of from our earliest years in our family of origin. So that intimate circle, high level of trust, but also a high level of pain and grief associated with relationships in those circles. Then the next one is activity and social. So these are people I see regularly. It lines up with that. Activity and social. These are friends. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about what those are specifically. Trust me. But that's where we're going to focus. The second to last is formal. That's the people paid to help me. That's formal relationships. That's your doctor, right? Now you're talking to your doctor about important things, right? Like your health, your mental health, but it's more formal. It's not the same thing as friendships and that intimate connection. Now, I want to draw your attention to the fact that that activity social is right next to that intimate circle. So there are times when our relationships kind of get blurred between that intimate circle line and the activity social, and we're going to talk about that, okay? So you have formal, and then the rest of the world is distant, no impact, really no impact to you personally on a personal relational level, right? Okay. So this is where we're going to focus today. We're going to focus on people I see regularly, okay? That's what we're going to talk about today. We talked about family last time. Today we're talking about people I see regularly, as well as close friends and relatives, right? I mean, close friends in the sense of that yellow area. Okay. So let's talk about friends, different kinds of friends. I think it's important to name things, right? It's helpful. So you have acquaintance friends. So these are people you see every day when you're walking your dog. It's your neighbor, and y'all take out the trash at the same day and y'all wave. It's the neighbor across the street who, today's Halloween, for example. So we will sit across the street from one another as we're handing out candy and just chit chat. How you doing? Oh, this is great. This is great. But that's the only time we speak to each other because it's about kind of circumstance, right? And there's a low level of confidence, trust required. I don't need to have deep trust in her that she's not gonna tell my secrets because I don't tell her my secrets, right? She's an acquaintance friend. Very, very common, okay? But there's more. There are convenience friends. So there are people in our life who are our friends that are there truly. It's a matter of convenience. I want you to think carpool friends or your kids' team sport group or your kids' youth group at church or, just kind of these convenient situations. Another example is like neighborhood groups, like a neighborhood potluck or a homeowners associating meeting. That is a convenience friend. These are people like you see, again, low level of confidence, trust required. You're not sharing your secrets. You don't feel particularly vulnerable or seen or witnessed in that way. It's not a personal relationship. They're just convenience friends. You're very nice. You might even enjoy yourselves, have fun, laugh, but they're really, not a personal relationship. You may even go to dinner with them, with a group of people, but it's not a personal relationship. It's not even remotely encroaching upon your intimacy core. Then there's the activity friends. Now, this is the area I showed you where it's the people I see regularly and then the line of close friends and relatives, right? Okay. So remember, the intimacy circle includes yourself, your immediate family, and your close friends and relatives. The people I see regularly can vary. So far, we've had, acquaintances, kind of those people that we see walking our dog. And then now we have the people, that are convenience. They're in the carpool with me. We have a nice conversation. It's my kids' youth sport team, those kind of things. But then activity friends. So this is like your church group, not your kids' church group, but yours, your Bible study, your book club, your team sports, like pickleball, for example. Pickleball is taking over the world. Mommy and me groups, mothers of preschoolers groups, which is where I found a lot of friends when I had my kids were very little. Dinner clubs, all sorts of things, right? Walking clubs, running clubs, those kind of things. These are friends you engage with and spend time doing specific activities. The thing is that there is a higher level of confidence and trust that can begin to emerge. And this is where things can get complicated because these activity friends can become close friends. And then things can get complicated real quick because when activity friends become close friends, then it enters into my intimate circle, which then takes on a whole different vibe, okay? Whole different situation. Then we have our inner circle friends. So that's your intimacy circle, right? So these are your lifelong friends, best friends, close friends. Highest level of confidence and trust is required for the relationship to remain stable. I am saying that specifically. You can have a best friend that shares a confidence with someone else and that damages the relationship. The relationship is no longer stable, right? So, because connection is the foundation of all relationships. And when we share confidences that belong to other people, another person's story, then we are disconnecting. We are breaking kind of the rule and the framework of that relationship. So this inner circle friends, this includes your close friends and your relatives, even like cousins and what have you. Certainly your immediate family, but immediate family takes on a different vibe. Remember, go to the last podcast to listen to that. So these inner circle friends, these relationships have the same needs as our most intimate family relationships. They're really not all that different. They serve us beautifully and can also cause us pain. How so? Well, as adults, this is kind of coming from the last podcast, I'm just going to remind you, we carry our earliest developmental experiences of connection even if it was unhealthy connection, right? We carry those with us. They're in us. They're a part of us. We cannot leave them. They're part of us until we deal with them. We carry these experiences of connection or lack of connection into our friendships. And certain wounds can be activated, especially in response to emotionally charged or hard situations. This occurs the closer our friendships come to our intimate core. So the people I see regularly, the more it closes in where that friend kind of becomes a close friend, that's when things can get a little complicated. So here's a possible complicated scenario, because I always think stories are great. Okay, so this is completely made up. Completely made up. Okay? Y'all, do not message me and say, Heather, I know you're talking about so-and-so. No, this is totally made up. Okay. But this is it could be a real scenario. All right. And you've maybe even had an experience about this. All right. So here's a possible complicated scenario. Emily and Judy go to the same book club. They join a book club. You know, book clubs, they're awesome. They join a book club. And over time, their friendship grows. And soon enough, they start driving together to book club. Like they're like, hey, you going to book club? Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and ride together. And then after book club, they go and like have a nice, lovely dinner together. And then they begin going on trips together, like little local trips to visit old libraries. They both love books and they spend more time together, talking about family and life. And, this friendship's just really becoming close. So, oh goodness, look at my formatting. Okay. So Judy meets a new friend on a dating app. Okay. And Emily's over the moon excited for her, right? But the book club thing starts kind of going crazy because, Judy's got this new friend and she texts Emily and says, oh, Emily, I'm meeting Hank for dinner. Go without me and I'll see you next week. Now it happens again the following week, right? Okay. Now, see, look what I did. Look at my formatting. All right. This makes it a little bit easier to see. So Judy meets that new friend on the dating app and Emily's over the moon excited for her friend. Judy begins to miss book club. Now, this is the thing that brought them together. Telling Emily via text, oh, Emily, I'm meeting Hank for dinner. Go without me. I'll see you next week. Now, it happens again the following week. Now, Emily misses her friend and doesn't know what to do. Now, Emily and her family of origin growing up, Emily felt like she couldn't express her need for affection and attention. When her parents divorced, she felt left behind. A couple of weeks later, Judy, who is madly in love with her new boyfriend, realizes she hasn't heard from Emily in a while. The day of book club arrives and Judy sends Emily a text. Hi, sorry, it's been a while. Probably, do you want to go to book club? There's no response. Judy assumes she's busy and looks forward to seeing her good friend at book club later that evening. Now, Judy arrives at book club, and let's just say it's a chilly reception from Emily. And she is shocked to find that Emily acts like they aren't even friends. What happened? Judy wonders. Judy is hurt, and Emily is hurt. The thing is with that scenario is it happens all too often because we unconsciously carry the wounds of our earliest relationships until we become conscious of them. So as soon as that relationship began to go into that intimate category, that intimate circle of a close friend, suddenly Emily saw Judy's interest, busyness with her new boyfriend to be about her. She saw Judy choosing that boyfriend to be leaving her. So Emily's reaction of anger and hurt and saying we're not friends anymore was a protection for her because in her childhood she experienced feeling abandoned, left behind. She never was taught, hey, I miss you. I want to hang out with you. Or even, I know you're busy, but I miss you. I'd like for us to hang out. Can we talk about it? What have you? Instead, Emily just kind of withdrew, avoided, and said, we're not friends anymore. And Judy over there is like, what happened? And they're both hurt. The reason why this happens is because Emily had all of this unresolved wounds inside. And because that relationship became very close to her, it began to take on a vibe of her family, her most trusted people. And when that trust to her was wounded by Judy kind of disappearing off the face of a map because of a boyfriend, and we've all been there before when we've fallen in love, right? That, or other major situations happen in our life. Sometimes we disappear for a little while and we call it ghosted, right? That's the whole ghosted thing. That whole ghosted thing is really about us and our pain. We feel ghosted, but it's activating something in us because that person was in our intimate circle, and now we feel hurt because they've disappeared or something has changed, and we feel abandoned, or we feel left behind, or we feel unseen. And then we'll say, well, that person made me feel that way. Well, the reality is the wound inside of us just was activated, and we felt a lot of feelings, but they're always ours. So we unconsciously carry the wounds of our earliest relationships. Emily was unconscious to the fact that her parents' divorce and the way she couldn't express her needs in attention and time with her parents and her caregivers was one of the reasons why she felt it so keenly that Judy kind of ghosted her. Even though Judy didn't ghost her, Judy just fell in love and got busy. But when circled back to be with Emily, her good friend, Emily shut her down. I don't know if that feels familiar for you, but I've been there before on both sides. So what do we do about it? Well, we learn to become conscious of our own wounds. See, our relationships are a mirror image of us. And we don't like to think about that because then it makes us feel like, oh, when I say mirror image, it doesn't mean that our relationships are what's inside of us. Our relationships mirror what's inside of us. So if we're struggling with something in a relationship, it's just simply mirroring what's in us. And so it's important for us to look within, to look internal, to understand how we're reacting and responding based on something happening in the relationship. So until we become conscious of them, we're just unconsciously assuming that everybody's out to get us, or this person hurt us, or this person was mean to me, what have you. And that may be the case. There's no question about it. Some people can treat us very unkindly and can be mean and awful. But I'd say about 80% of the time, it's simply us dealing with a wound that we're not really completely aware that we have. So this is the iceberg image, and I'm always going to point to it because the iceberg that sunk the Titanic was not the top part, it was the bottom part. It's the biggest, and it's what we don't see. We are not conscious of what's beneath the waterline in ourselves. Above the waterline is all the superficial stuff, like our marital status, what church we go to, our political affiliation, our hobbies, our sports that we like, all those things that are superficial. Below the waterline is the internal work, and it is dark and scary given the picture. So these are some words that often can give you some language around the iceberg. I recommend you screenshot this, look at this, because these words will kind of give you a sense of, here's some words that I can choose from that might give me sense around these wounds that I have that are unconscious. Okay. Now, this kind of work is hard and is often related to trauma work. This is where I make the understanding. I am not a licensed mental health clinician. I am a certified life coach and a relationship therapist. However, I have a lot of therapy in my background, but I'm not a clinician. So you can certainly work with a coach and a therapist at the same time. That works in partnership very well together. You can talk to a coach about certain things, that a coach that is trauma informed, like myself. I do a lot of research and education. However, it is important to understand that Talking to a therapist, a licensed mental health clinician about trauma is really important. Also, not all licensed therapists are equal. Do your homework. If you need help with that, I can point you in the right direction on some people that I would recommend. Okay. So, what can we do? What can we do? I mean, poor Emily and Judy, they're just sad. They're both hurt. They don't know why. Emily's hurt. She doesn't know how to say why she's hurt. And Judy's hurt because she doesn't understand why Emily's mad and why Emily says we're not friends anymore. Right? So what can we do in those situations? Well, simply becoming aware of what might be activating us is a huge first step. So when we become more self-aware, our relationships will change. Why? Well, because relationships are a dance. When one person changes how they show up in the dance, it impacts both people dancing, right? Now, friendships do have some complexities, and that's why we're going to get into that. But really, you, me, us doing the work of really becoming aware of our stuff is so critical and can totally transform the health of our relationships and in how we show up in connection with our loved ones, both our friends and family and romantic, of course, okay? When ouchy, hard, difficult situations happen, our brain and body respond immediately. We can learn to regulate this response by harnessing self-awareness. So I'm going to point you to the previous episode where I went into the brain and talked about the 3 questions the brain asks, okay? I left it out this time because I'm already 37 minutes. And I promised I'd be 30 minutes. Okay, getting there. Okay. So here's some life hacks on friendships. So number 1, friendships are dynamic, not static. Now, here's the reality. Humans do not like change. We want our friendships to stay the same. We like the friendship the way it is, and when it changes, we are hurt and we want it back. We want back what was. Emily is hurt by Judy's relationship with her new boyfriend because it took Judy away from Emily. Emily is hurt. Emily doesn't like it. Emily wants to go back to what it was. Judy minus Hank, her new boyfriend. Reality check. People change. People change careers, move away, get a boyfriend, break up with a boyfriend, get married, get divorced, have children. I mean, all of the different things. So friendships evolve or not. And that's where friendships can fade. They can end. I told someone yesterday that some friendships come for a lifetime, those lifelong friendships, and some friendships come for a season based on a context or an activity. Okay? All right. Recognizing the loss of a friendship that was close. So this is another life hack. So recognizing the loss of a friendship that was close. There is grief when we lose a close relationship. Remember, that is our most intimate circle. We feel close to our friends. And when that relationship ends or changes, this particularly happens around people that we became close friends with an activity, for example. You went to the same church. You were in the same Bible study. You worked at the same business. Let me drink some water here. You know, you had that in common for a long period of time. I mean, there were many people I was really good friends with when I was a pastor at a local church, and I don't see them anymore. And we were very close friends, very close friends. But that relationship changed. And I grieved those relationships. They needed to be grieved. They deserved to be grieved because they were meaningful to me. Now, recognizing the loss of a friendship that was close is hard. So we need to understand how our needs and relationships, my need, can impact friendships that are more activity oriented. You know, if if it's because I go to that church and that's where I want to be close with my friend, what happens when I leave that church and I still want to be close with that friend, but we just don't see each other? We're not in the same circles anymore. So understanding that I have that need for connection and for time is something that I need to manage. And I need to go do my work, talk to a coach or a therapist about my needs about that relationship. Now, some friendships enter our intimate circle, but when the activity context changes, the friendship fades. We need to acknowledge that and not pretend like it didn't happen and not make up a story about why you're not friends anymore. No, it's just that the activity that brought y'all together with regularity, that brought that closeness, has changed. You're no longer in the book club. They moved to St. Louis and you live in Florida. They have kids now. They have a brand new baby. They don't have time. All these things, but we don't want to make up a story about why the friendship faded when it was simply just that the activity that brought you together and made you so close changed. We need to acknowledge that. It is normal to feel hurt, to grieve the friendship, to miss it. It's normal and it's okay to seek closure. There is a friendship that I've had for a long time that I have had to work through because the relationship has changed. The friendship changed and we needed to walk through closure. I can tell you it was a very beautiful and powerful example of a friendship evolving and changing, where once we were very, very close and now we're just kind of like acquaintances. I love her, she loves me, we wish each other well, but we understand that it changed, and that was a beautiful thing to experience together. So recognize that. Recognizing the loss is critical for you to find healing and to remain open to what could be. Friendships can be complicated. Now, we don't like to think about this, but they can, and they are. So, from the level of curiosity. So curiosity helps, and I'm going to say this for every single one of these. So just like family members, we can practice engaging in former old relationships in new ways. Psst, by the way, we aren't the same either. Like the Heather that was 10 years ago, not the same, right? So why would I expect my friends to be the same that were my former friends? No, we all evolve, we change. So you can enter into those relationships in new ways, right? So staying curious about these people as individuals who are growing, learning, evolving helps us experience connection, the very thing we always wanted. We always wanted connection, and this takes us full circle back to that pure place as a child when we sought connection from a caregiver or parent and we were unable to get what we needed. So curiosity is the super hack for connection in our friend relationships and family. Because when we are open and when we approach people with an understanding of empathy and interest and curiosity, we do not have expectation that kind of weighs us down like an anchor. We're open, we're flexible, and you're going to learn new things about these people that have evolved as well. They are not the people they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So curiosity is the super hack for connection in our friend relationships. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the writing prompts and then I'm going to wrap it up because it's 45 minutes and I'm 15 minutes over. Okay, y'all. I can't believe this. Y'all know me, I can talk. Okay, so writing prompts on friend relationships. This is going to be linked in my link tree that I mentioned. It's going to be in the notes below on the podcast and the notes for the video. Okay, so just click the link tree, you'll see everything. Well, once I get everything updated, because I got to update it, y'all, because the video is happening now. So give me an hour, okay, to get it on the link tree. So here's the writing prompts on friend relationships. So we go at these friend relationships with curiosity, with these writing prompts, and you go with what comes up first. Okay? All right. So a recent situation with a friend that felt ouchy difficult was, and you just fill out the blank. Fill out the blank. In this situation, I felt. Now, this is where I'm going to ask you to use a feeling wheel, and I'm going to link to it in the podcast. Okay. So the feeling wheel, it's a wheel with a bunch of feelings. I have a picture of one back there. And it gives you language around kind of the gray kind of dark, not sure area of feelings. Feelings can feel very disorienting. And so a feeling wheel really kind of helps you detach from all that inside and see the words on a wheel and like, oh, that's what I think I'm feeling. So in this situation, I felt. The feelings reminded me of. That's going to remind you of something in your past, an experience. Doesn't have to be childhood. Recalling that I think I needed. So you're going to focus on I needed. This was a need of mine. But I didn't get it. I didn't get the thing I needed. So it makes sense that I did that because this is you validating yourself. You're allowed to have experienced that and have felt that, and it makes sense that I did those things because of this. The story that I tell myself about the friendship and the situation is, this is an important step. Take some time with this one because we really tell ourselves stories. Our brain fills in the gaps that it doesn't have all the answers to, and it loves making up a story that is usually 99% inaccurate. So the inaccurate narrator that lives in our head, the story that I tell myself. The truth is, you're going to write out, the truth is, knowing this, I can try to reframe the story. So you step back from the story and you say, knowing this, knowing what the truth is, I can try to reframe this by, and if I do this, I may be more able to, whatever it is, whatever you feel comfortable doing. If I do this, if I reframe the story, I may be more able to. And then one way I can practice showing up for my friends, both old and new, may be to. So that is really it on the writing prompts. And, I hope this has been good information. I know I went a lot longer today than I thought, but there was just a lot of information that I felt like I needed to cover because friendships are a complicated topic and some things we don't really talk about in our culture. We have on Instagram all these things about romantic relationships, parent-child, but nothing about friends. And friends are a huge, beautiful part of our life, but can also bring us a lot of pain and grief and loss. And so I hope this has been of benefit. I also am going to make sure that I put everything on my link tree, so you'll be able to go give me about an hour or so, and I'll be able to update the writing prompts as well as the video on the link tree. And then my podcast, this audio will drop on Wednesday morning, and you will have all the information you need in the podcast notes. So if you are watching live or listening on the podcast, I thank you so much for being a part of my community, and I will talk to you guys soon. Again, look in the notes in the podcast or on the YouTube notes for all the places you can find me. And you can always find me at letsfeelgoodnow.com, where you can feel good even when life doesn't. Bye, y'all.